Hello and welcome back to another Dead Pixel, a video game podcast. My name is Joe, and I'm here with my friend, co-host, the man who likes to commit identity theft, Nick. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm doing pretty good. The trick to identity theft is not getting caught and using Bitcoin to extort people. That's my preferred method. Um,
Oh, dude, digital currency probably helped out a bunch.
yes, it makes the whole process a lot smoother from my side. And the other thing is that actually, uh, the thing everybody loves. What is it called? 2-point security. You know, where your phone number and stuff is part of it. People think that that actually works, but really, as a identity thief, all you have to do is get control of the phone number, and then you can reset all of their stuff, and then you have complete control. So that's pro tip for anybody who wants to get in the game. Yeah, follow me on
I got
Twitter.
a funny story. My last manager ended up getting some identity theft happen while they were training me. They get a phone call and they answer the phone, and it was apparently the corporate office being like, "Are you filing for unemployment?" And they're like,
Oh,
"No, I am here." And so
working.
they had to go ahead and cancel all their credit cards and do the whole nine. And it was I was just like, "Wow, that's something else."
There was a guy at my last job, and we were all hanging out at one day, and he got a call from our HR, and they said the same thing, like, "Hey, are you like?" They were like, "Hey, someone's saying you're filing for unemployment," and he was like, "Well, that's messed up." And they're like, "Yeah, so you need to." It's kind of our HR just saying, "Hey, you need to do this because we found out about it through this other thing." Anyway, it's crazy. But I would never do that. I would never do that and tell anybody, let anybody know that I was stealing identities. I mean, my name is definitely actually Nick Vera. It's not something else.
I mean, what you do is you're better off getting people's social security and selling those on the the black web,
That's a victimless crime.
the dark web. Yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
How are you
Pro
doing, by the
tip.
way?
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm doing fine, man. No, I got a little, still getting over a cold, so uh, I have a little tickle in my chest, so I end up coughing quite a bit more than I probably should. So I apologize for all the viewers. And if I'm in the middle of a sentence and all of a sudden I go quiet for the listeners, that's probably because I hit the mute. Because hopefully I will hit the mute before I cough, or else you'll be very unhappy. Unless you're into that, I guess. Uh,
Some
then
weird
you'll be very
ASMR.
happy.
Yeah, some weird ASMR shit. You said you had a pro tip, or is it just a joke?
Yeah, the pro tip. So, if you ever have to jot down any type of numbers that you find, whether it be a combination PIN, Social Security, um, add the digits to make it look like a phone number if you're writing it down. So, for example, Social Security is one digit away from a phone number. So, usually in the U.S. at least. So then, yeah, just add whatever character you want in the front or the end or something like that, and then just remember that that's how it is. If you have a four-digit combination or something like that for because I had that with I think I did that. I first started doing that with school lockers. You have your combo that the high school gives you or whatever, and I'm like, I don't remember, so I just quick jot it down as if put a dash in there like a phone number, and people end up thinking that it's just a phone number if they see it like on your binder or some shit.
That's pretty cool. Tips and tricks on identity theft and other memory mnemonics.
I
Uh,
mean, if you ever have a GPS, never have your home as your home address, or else someone who
uh,
steals your car, GPS knows where you live. What you do is you either put your neighbors, or it's better off if you put the gas station in your neighborhood, because if you can't make it to the local gas station or library as your home, if you can't make it from there, then you're in trouble. But at least if someone ends up stealing your car, stealing your GPS from your car, something like that, they won't know exactly where you live.
that's true. That's smart because I have back when I had a GPS that was its own separate thing and not my phone. I did have it in there as like my home address. So
Yeah,
I never thought of that, but yeah, I should have because that was really stupid of me.
my dad had it. My dad had it as my mother's name, like her house. That was it. It was her house. And so when you looked at, like, if you knew it was my dad's car, he's like, wait a minute. It's like,
Mm,
his home address, it doesn't show his home address. It says someone else's house. So
okay,
yeah,
it's pretty smart.
it worked.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. So other than that, holidays treating you good?
yeah, pretty good.
Uh,
It's almost New Year as we record this, and looking forward to hanging out with some people for New Year, and yeah, it's gonna be fun.
so you're going to a party then? A lot of people going to be there. Are you afraid you're going to get sick again?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna spit in people's mouth as much as I can. That's my goal. Uh, some people are into that. Don't ask me why, but I'm gonna be doing that. Should be okay, but I don't know. I doubt I can get Omicron again so soon. So this is the time to strike. Uh, yeah. By the way, I got Omicron. So that sucked, but I was able to get over it. Talk about that in our Game of the Year podcast that we also did. So you can hear about all about that there. But yeah,
Long
yeah,
story short, you did the right thing. You stayed away from the Christmas party, and you got sick right after our podcast ended.
yeah.
So
That is the TLDR of that whole story. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go to this thing tonight and see how it is. And I don't know. It should be fun. But how about you? You have some interesting things going on for New Year.
yeah, so since I moved to my location, it's a yearly tradition to have at least one of my buddies come in from out of state and hang with us, and so that tradition still carries on. We were afraid there for a bit because uh, he started feeling well. He got sick from his daughter, but his daughter got tested. She didn't have COVID, but he just wanted to be sure as well. Uh, and so he then tried to get tested a couple days ago. All the spots booked up nearby him, couldn't get a single test. Heard from a coworker, he was pretty sure he didn't. He had no symptoms. He's had the shots, but he just wanted to make sure, especially coming to my house. I got young children, that really young children. So therefore, he's just like, no, I want to make sure I'm completely fine. Um, and one of the coworkers of his said, yeah, go ahead, and some of the schools have them. He's like, oh, cool, all right. So he went to one of the high schools nearby his where he worked, and they're like, "Do you have a kid that goes to the school district or goes to the school?" No, then you can't do it here. He's like, "Okay." So then he went to the school by his, his kid does go to. Okay, no problem. Do you have your kid with you? He's like, "No." Well, you have to come back with your kid. He's like, "Wait a minute.
Oh yeah.
I am concerned for having COVID. You need me to have my child in the car potentially getting sick because they're around me, and you need the kids to be with the sick parents." And they're like,
That is some
yes.
king of the hill type shit right there. It's like perfect. It's just beautiful. Like
and then
bureaucracy, man.
then he then he does bring his kid then the next day, and they're like, so does your kid have photo ID? Like my kid is is early elementary. They do not have photo ID. And they're like, well, they're like, how about their email address? He's like, the school apparently issues them all email addresses. Is like, I have access to it, but you got to give me a sec to get it ready. Then he's trying to go through the rigmarole, finding that like, okay, no, it's fine. We'll just let you do it. We got the rapid test. Yeah, I'll just go ahead. And it's like,
Thank
he's like,
you.
you fucking kidding me? You know?
It's like the
Uh,
child being here is not evidence enough. I mean, look up their name, look up their pic. You have
yeah,
computers with all this shit in it. Look it up. Man,
yeah.
that sucks.
So
Well,
that's exactly it. But he got tested. He turned out he was negative, which we thought he was, but he just wanted to be sure. And so yeah, he made his way down, and he's going to be spending the weekend with us. That's the one tradition I have, since coming back to the States.
yeah,
And I'm glad that both years of like last year of COVID and this year, like we've been able to make that work. Um,
yeah, man, that's gonna be awesome. You're gonna have a banger of a weekend.
Yeah, I bought a bunch of for the holidays. I bought my wife a bunch of board games. Uh, I
Yeah,
got her I got her Spirit Island, which is it's just looking at it bare bones. I know nothing about it. I just know that the internet seems to like it a lot, and it looks like a better version of Catan, I guess. The map looks Catan-esque, like tile pieces put together, but I honestly have no clue what it's about. Uh, I got her that in the expansion, and then I ended up getting her the expansion to uh, Betrayal on the House on the Hill,
Mm.
uh, which adds the roof and like 50 new scenarios.
Whoa.
And yeah, it was on sale for like half off, so it's like I think I got it for $10 during Black Friday. Uh, I got her something else too. Oh, I got her Pandemic. Yeah, I figured, thematically appropriate. Uh,
That game is
well,
not a.
correction, Pandemic, Legacy Pandemic, season 1. So,
You couldn't make that game today without it just being a massive joke. I mean,
yeah.
gosh.
Well, I'm curious what the meta is on that because back in the day, when you played the original Pandemic, so we liked the developer. I can't remember his name now, but we played. They made Forbidden Island and Forbidden Desert, which essentially is you're a team going to look for Forbidden Island. You're going to discover this new island, research it for the first time, and the idea is your helicopter like crashes, and you're supposed to explore the island, find the artifacts, and kind of repair your ship or repair your helicopter and fly out. But the island's sinking. Forbidden Desert, your helicopter crashes and you're in the desert, so you have to find the ancient technology to get the flying machine and get the heck out before the sandstorm comes, before you die of dehydration. There's a bunch of things that can kill you, and it's a cooperative game. So we liked it because it was co-op. It encourages working together, and it was really good with most of your friends. Problem is, you have like I don't know, a 5 out of 6 times you die,
Whoa.
failure rate. But it's not really. It really doesn't bother you so much. It's more like, oh man, I was so close. But when you do survive, it's always by the skin of your teeth,
Mm.
and it's like it's this epic thing. You're like, yes, So that person in level of difficulty, Forbidden Island is the easiest for like I would say late elementary school kids could do that one, no problem. Middle school is more, starting point for Forbidden Desert, a few extra mechanics, and then Pandemic, which it was you have a world map, multiple diseases, and you have difficulty sliders for all of it, but that one is the more difficult one. We never bothered buying it at the time, just because having it shipped overseas and then mailing it back or luggage back it was just too much work. So, but then they have these legacy games. There's a lot of legacy games, and for like everything from Risk to Betrayal on the House on the Hill. What legacy games are is kind of a one. You're buying a season or an event. It's you play this game, and as the game unfolds, it makes a kind of a story mode to your basic board game, and it's evolving your game as you continue to play it. To the point of you're adding new cards. You start off with maybe a smaller hand, and the first round might be smaller. But then as you're going, you're adding new cards. You're literally destroying cards. It'll say you after you get this, rip this card in half.
Whoa.
Um, yeah, it is meant to be a permanent experience. And so by the time you're done with it, you'll have experienced a lot of these new things, and it's meant to be disposable essentially. They're a little pricey, but it does last you a long time. So for example, Betrayal, the legacy version of that, the first one, you playing your set characters, and so there's a tutorial, and the winner of that one is actually the main, secretly like becomes the villain. And then when you're all the characters, you're playing as the descendants the next round, like it's x amount of years, it's literally x amount of years later.
Mm.
um and so you're parting, it's like a dynasty thing you're playing as, and so as you're finding certain key items, you can actually keep certain key items and then pass them to your next character, your next playthrough. So you're playing the game multiple times, and it's evolving as you're playing. And so that's really neat. I haven't gotten to the end of that one. I've only played like 5 missions out of that one, and it's been really fun. But we have a certain group of people, so we used to, before the pandemic, uh, we would meet every couple months and continue to play. And that's what the Pandemic Legacy game is, essentially, is something similar. I was reading about it, and some people were talking about. I think they were talking about you can make it go over the course of a year, and so the first couple games are like normal Pandemic, and then after January. Multiple people said after January, so I have no idea what this is. If it means like they want you to go by months, but after that first bit, you're then now modifying the game, and so it goes from the basic pandemic gameplay to their modified rules. Um, and I think it's up to 4 players, so cooperative, but you can have a minimum of I think 2. And so at least for the very very minimum, it's my wife and I can play. We might have a couple friends nearby that we might try to get together and make it a like a once a month thing or something like that. Uh, and I think that would be fun. So yeah, that's it. I got a bunch of board games because we hadn't bought a board game since Gloomhaven 3-ish years ago, a little over 3 years ago, and that's kind of a legacy esque game as well. But that's a massively giant box of a thing. Weighs I don't know like 10 pounds or some shit.
Hmm. Wow, like
Bigger than my child. So
that's pretty cool. Like, I need to find some board game people around here to play with. After I move north, I shall be closer to. There's a pretty big comic and like miniatures and board game shop up north. So I think that once I move up north, I'm probably gonna try to start heading there after work, and I don't know, try to make some random friends or whatever. Because I don't have anybody around here that really plays board games. That are like I'm close friends. So I'll try to do that, and I might be right there with you, playing some cool shit.
yeah, dude, it's a lot of those games, a lot of those shops will, well, I should say before COVID, they would have like, every Wednesday or something like that, they'd have open night for people to bring in their stuff or test out new things. So yeah, it was a really fun way to do that kind of thing. But for sure, I hope hope that works out for you.
Yeah,
Let me,
me too.
ask any questions because I don't have extensive knowledge, but I do have a base knowledge of a lot of different games. And actually, uh, yeah, I have a signal boost at the end that I'm going to promote now, thanks to this conversation. So
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Good. That's great, man.
so, yeah. So outside of that, that's about it. But for let me just write this down before I forget.
Oh, I got to
Uh,
stretch now. What do I say? Um,
done. Boom. Got
we,
it.
we need to we need someone to sponsor us so I can promote something in those times.
Yeah.
Gillette.
So, um, all right. Uh, so recently, since last time, last time I was on, I was talking about how uh, I was watching Hawkeye, and uh, for me though, I said last time that there was 5 episodes. That was my mistake. There are 6 episodes. When I looked at Wikipedia at the time, it showed 5, and I was only on episode like I just finished 3, I think, at that moment. Um, so what happened was I went ahead and we took we also noticed that there's Black Widow was available. Uh, we ended up watching the whole Black Widow, but within the first little bit, the very first song that comes playing is they have a quiet, slow tone version of "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and I almost noped the fuck out. I was just like, "Wait a minute, are you? Oh, what the hell?" And so I just was like, do I bail now? Because this is perfect time to bail. Because the rest of the movie is going to be this horse shit. I'm just going to leave. And I stuck around, and I'm glad I did. The movie surprised me. It's not like phenomenal, but it was entertaining. I had a good time with it. I actually I enjoyed it more than I thought. Which was, I guess I wasn't expecting much, but after watching was it Shang-Chi, I was disappointed in that. And I was expecting this to be another one of those. I'm just going to watch it for the sake of watching it, and but no, I came away positive about it, and I was like, cool. And then when I finished up Hawkeye, there was some tie-ins to that, and I was like, oh, cool. All right, that actually worked out really well for me. I'm kind of glad I ended up watching it when I did. So
That's cool.
uh, yeah, that was enjoyable. The Black Widow, Natasha's sister, and I can't remember her name. She steals the scenes whenever she's in anything. I thoroughly enjoy her the comic timing of her. Um,
Yeah, she's a good actress. I saw Black Widow back when I was in theaters, and it was all right. I didn't really care for it all that much, but Um, it was I don't know. It just felt like just another kind of Marvel movie. But I'm glad you enjoyed it because there's some good like explosions and stuff in there. There's some good intrigue as well, and the crew
I
that she
just,
runs with
like I
is all
said, it
right.
was just the sister, man. Everything the sister said was fucking funny.
Yeah,
She making fun of the 3 point landing the Black Widow does.
that was
She,
pretty funny.
like, what's with that thing that you do? That pose, And then
Yeah,
she does it. Yeah.
she
She's
does
like,
it
oh,
later.
gross.
And then there was a good line in there where she was like, referring to Thor, she was like, "Well, the god doesn't have to take ibuprofen after every battle," kind of like pointing out that Black Widow is eventually she's gonna get too old or she's just gonna die because she's just a regular human. I thought that was pretty cool. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, that kind of brings it, kind of makes it more humanistic of a show to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It seems like a lot of movies love the idea of having female Russian combatants with ballet or teaching them like the arts. Because John Wick did the same thing, having the Russian school for like assassins and
It's sort of a
uh,
trope, like a red, like what is it, Red Sparrow or whatever with
oh yep yep.
Jennifer Lawrence was like that, and it's sort
The
of a thing
you're
now.
you're a famous ballet dancer, and yet we're gonna make you the undercover spy. Like no one's supposed to know who you are. I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, yeah, it's something like that. But yeah, that seems to be the thing they go for now. And now it's probably a Bond thing, I imagine. It kind of goes back to James Bond, or there's probably
Well,
some.
it makes sense to a certain extent. Like I'm sure that if it weren't for the fact that people were being afraid of upsetting China and getting the Chinese money, you if this was done in the 80s, something similar, it would they would. But if instead of it focused on Russians, it was focused on Chinese, they'd do the same thing with the Chinese acrobat troops that you see like everywhere
Mm.
touring and at Branson and whatnot. They'd be like, nope, those are secretly assassins. They can fit into a shoebox.
That's actually a
So
pretty good idea for a movie where they are like a Chinese acrobatics group and they are assassins, but they're like stranded in like Branson, Missouri. And there's like nothing to do. That would be a pretty good comedy. I would
they
definitely
have to
watch
work
that.
they have to work their way to get to the Dolly Parton show. Uh,
Everyone's just like Hicks, and there's like one senator that's coming there, and but he doesn't ever actually show up, and that would be pretty freaking hilarious.
Working at that roll throwing place, like,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, like I said, that is just the moment. Like I'm glad I did watch the movie, the Black Widow movie, but it's just uh, the moment that I saw that or heard them playing "Smell of Teen Spirit," it reminded me of the biggest atrocity of that slow taking a good song, or and then playing it slow and like trying to make it like emotional or some crap. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
You
the sequel
just
that Netflix did.
you just showed me
Um,
this, and it is
yeah,
horrible.
so they took. So if you just look up the trailer for the second Crouching Tiger movie,
Yeah.
they play CCR's "Bad Moon Rising" in the most egregious way possible. It's like it makes no. There's no reason to have that song in there, and they're playing it. And it's hot garbage,
Well,
and
what they do
yeah,
is they take that song, which is pretty much like this hillbilly kind of hick anthem, and they turn it into this slow metal type,
heavy
weird,
synth in the voice,
heavy
like
synth
robot
vocals,
sounding. Yeah,
and it's just like, why this song doesn't work like this at all? It's just inexplicable to me. It's crazy.
yeah. So
It's horrible.
what they did is they guaranteed that I would never watch second Crouching Tiger movie, and I haven't.
Yeah, that was
So
gonna be bad. I mean, you watch that trailer and you're like, this is definitely bad. I'm not going to watch this. Watch them ruin the first Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon with this schlock.
uh,
Man,
yeah, the outside of that, the I have had during the holiday season had some family come over, and I've kind of been watching. I mentioned this before, but I'm pretty sure I have that about a TV show on Netflix called The Good Place. It has Veronica Mars. I can't remember her name now. She's also the sister in Frozen.
Kristen
Uh,
Bell, is that her name?
Sounds right. I'm terrible with
I
names,
think
dude.
it's
I am
Kristen
so
Bell.
bad. So
Forgettable.
it's her and oh, Becker. I'm I'm forgetting
Ted
the guy from
Danson.
Cheers.
Don't you
Ted
ever
Danson, yes.
forget his
That
name.
name. Okay, yes, that name I do recognize. So it's that essentially the main character dies. They wind up in the good place, and Ted Danson is like the appointed angel or the person who runs the good place. And turns out there is a glitch in the system, and she does not belong there. She's actually not a good person. In fact, she's a Arizona trash bag. um, yeah. So she's
She's
trying
from
to
Arizona and she's a
mingle.
bad person. That's what you mean by Arizona trash bag.
I've lived in Arizona
That's-
for 3 years. Okay, dude, I'm allowed to say this.
you can
Uh,
you claim Arizona then.
I claimed Arizona in the early '90s, and man, that was rough.
That
uh,
I was okay. Go ahead. I want to interject after you're done with this with a little thing about anyway. But go ahead.
so yeah, well, don't trust me. They rip on Florida way worse.
Oh, they do. They really
Like
hate Florida.
to high heaven, they just destroy Florida. So it's a really decent show. But what happened is we watched it a while ago, and then it's something that we always just have like our new friends come over. We need something in the background. We'll throw it on, and we end up getting a lot of our friends, family addicted to it. My in-laws live in a spot in the U.S. where their internet's bad, so they have Netflix, but they have the DVD Netflix, the Netflix of yesteryear.
Oh man, I
uh,
can't even imagine living like that.
so yeah, they can't do streaming essentially reliably. So they end up that's pretty much what's whenever they come over, we end up just binging that for them. So all of our free time, which we're not spending together, not mingling, not catching up, they're just watching that.
So I have watched, I think through season 4 of The Good Place, and I can seriously recommend. That first season is pretty great. I actually think that that the first couple seasons are pretty great, and then for some reason season 4 it just sort of lost me, and I was kind of tired of the joke. Like I don't know. I feel like every show has the joke of the show itself. I just kind of got weary of it. But those first couple seasons are definitely bangers. They're really great.
See, I actually thought the series never lost momentum. I think that's the thing is unlike a lot of shows, uh, essentially by episode 3, you're kind of like if you can make it to episode 3, and if you're not interested, then you can bounce no problem. But if you are interested, it only gets better. And it feels like it only goes faster essentially because they're constantly escalating the situation. And you're like by the time you hit the next season, you're like, wait, they can't up the ante, and they do. Um, and they more or less handle everything pretty well, and it ends solid. I
Okay,
I
maybe I need to go
enjoyed
back to it
it,
then.
and the fact that there is an end. It's not an
Mm,
ongoing show. I can't remember if it was like 5 or 6 seasons.
I think 5, but maybe you're
But
right.
it's
I don't
it's
know.
it's literally a solid set. You don't have to. You don't. It's not a forever show or something like that. And because the momentum's so good that it's really easy to like waste a whole evening. And it's just like I burned through how many episodes. So yeah, it's binge worthy. And so yeah, I'm watching it for like the third-ish time. I don't know. I've watched the first handful of episodes way too many times. But we've gone through all of it, with our friends and stuff like that. So
It is a very bingeable show. It is one of those shows where you can just kind of like, man, 25 minutes and it's over. And you're like, dang, I just want to watch one more before I go to bed. And then you're like up at 2 hours past your bedtime because
yeah,
it is a very good show. But something you said saying about her being from Arizona reminded me. I don't know if you've ever seen this show. Um, there's a show that came on years ago called Sons of Tucson, and it's about this guy who is like a babysitter for these two kid brothers, or these two brothers who are, and this guy's like probably like 35, and the kids are like, I don't know, 14 and 12 or something like that. And it takes place in Tucson, Arizona, and it's just kind of their shenanigans and what they get into, and it feels a lot like Malcolm in the Middle in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
It has that vibe to it, but it took place after Malcolm in the Middle, so in a way it's sort of upgraded. Um, it's one of those shows. It only made it 2 seasons, and I'm pretty sure it was on Fox, and it definitely fits into that like brilliant but canceled like category of show, because it's a great show, but nobody watched it, and it was before like Netflix had all those shows. So it was probably around 2000, 2006, 2008, somewhere in there, and it just like I remember a friend introduced me to it, and I watched it. And I was like, this show is really good, but it didn't. It just for some reason it just didn't catch on, didn't make it. It's one of those shows that really would have, I think, would have caught on if it had come out, 7 years later. But anyway, that you just talking about Arizona just reminded me of that. So that's a quick shout out. Anybody that has some free time, you're definitely going to want to go and watch Sons of Tucson, because it's surprisingly good.
Yeah, I never heard of it, man.
Yeah, it's.
Totally not even, never once heard of it. So that's it's interesting, especially when you relate it to Malcolm in the Middle. I loved me and Malcolm in the Middle back in the day. So
I mean, like if you can stomach that the show is just going to be ripped from your arms and dashed on the concrete, then if you can handle that and just know that it's gonna end. But there might be like 30 episodes, because it was before. Well, maybe not quite that many, but it was before they started that, bringing everything down to 10 episodes or less that they do now. So there's probably a good portion of it out there, but yeah. Anyway, you talking about Arizona just reminded me of the only show set in Arizona that I can remember, which is Sons of Tucson. Um,
okay. Well, that's been it for me. But what else have you been watching?
so perfect time to
Okay,
perfect time to
I got
cough.
fill in the blank now. Okay, brought to you by.
Perfect time to cough. So there is this show on Disney Plus. I guess it's kind of a show, called Get Back, and it is a documentary that Peter Jackson did about the Beatles. So in 1969, January of 1969, the Beatles were set to they were set to write an album in a month, and then at the end of that month, whatever songs they wrote, they were going to perform live for the first time, and it was going to be the first time anybody had ever heard those songs. Um, and so they were going to, since they were going to make this as a TV show, what they did was, whoever I guess they were paying to help them make this show just filmed them just trying to create this show. So they have like over 100 hours of footage of the Beatles in full color in 1969, of them just shooting the shit and trying to figure out how to write these songs and stuff like that. And this footage is sat in a vault somewhere for decades, and they finally, because of the other documentary type work that Peter Jackson has done, they decided to let him, have take a stab at it and make this documentary. So there's over 100 hours of footage. I feel like it's 125 or something like that. But he has taken it and reduced it down to 9 hours of a workable show.
Well,
So
don't worry, he'll come out with the extended version later.
yeah, they'll be like The Hobbit, whatever. The Beatles, The Hobbit, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, so this show, I've watched about an hour of it, and I don't think I'm going to watch that much more, because it is difficult to watch like just people just sit, like, because all they're doing is sitting in this room and they're writing these songs and talking about writing these songs. Um, and so the most amazing part about it is that you are watching a piece of history. I mean, ostensibly this is the end of the Beatles. Like kind of they're kind of breaking up as a band sort of before your very eyes as they write this album. Because they're sort of, they're playing nice and stuff like that, but they are kind of arguing at certain points, and John and has Yoko there, and John's like showing up to practice late, and everyone's cool about it, but you can tell he's just sort of checked out. Um, but I mean, just like I would recommend to anybody who has Disney Plus, who cares about the Beatles or even like classic rock and roll at all, to at least check this out, because like when you're watching it, it's surreal. It is crazy to watch, just 20, what was he, like 26-year-old Paul, 25-year-old George, 28-year-old John, just be like regular people. And I mean, the songs that they write, they do write some songs, right there on camera. There's a point early on where Paul, Ringo, and George are waiting for John to get there in the morning, and Paul is just fiddling around on his guitar, and he's playing Get Back. He doesn't know that he's playing it yet, but he's playing the song Get Back, just kind of writing it, and he's just sort of humming along because he has the tune, but he doesn't have the words. And you're just like, you're singing the song, and Paul doesn't even know yet. So it's a really cool little thing. I have friends who've watched more of it, and my mom was actually like recommending it to me, and saying just how much she has enjoyed watching it. It's a really cool thing, and it's a great piece of history that I'm glad it exists. But I definitely have, it's kind of bittersweet. I'll say that it's definitely bittersweet, but it's really cool. Anyway,
Okay.
so
Yeah, I saw the banner on Disney Plus, but I didn't actually take the time to look at it. So that's really neat. I would say I'd give it a shot, but honestly, it's I'll keep it as the best thing of Beatles stuff in my mind is that Beatles rock band that came out a handful of years ago, which was pretty stellar, and the one Powerpuff Girls episode that rips the entire episode is one or one joke after another using Beatles lyrics and titles. It's great. Like the professor's like, "Girls, have you heard the news today? Oh no!" Um, and it's just it's all right because it's all white. They do all sorts of stupid shit. It's a really good episode. And yeah, so I've the Beatles. Growing up with it, like yeah, it's I mean, I actually I remember when the what was it, early 2000s, 2001, the Beatles One album came out. I remember buying that one right away. Actually, um, I brought that with me overseas when I went to Japan for a high school exchange. So it was actually kind of funny. It came out right before I left. So I'm like, yeah, well, I want a new CD, and like this one, it has all the best stuff, and it makes it a lot easier to carry the one than it is, a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, that's cool though. So
yeah.
other than that, I mean, what else? Or what have you been playing then?
Uh, for me, what I've been playing is well, let's see. So I've been playing some Forza Horizon 5. So I talked about this
Nice.
on Game of the Year a little bit, but and kind of shot my shot there quite a bit. But anyway, I have not played a racing game in a long time. So this one, I kind of had written them off. I don't really think of racing games as something that I mean, particularly go out of my way to enjoy. Even back when I did play them a little bit, Gran Turismo 3 It's probably the last one that I seriously played. Um, but a lot of people have been talking about Forza Horizon 5 as being like one of the best games of the year. So I wanted to try it out. And it's free on Game Pass, or I guess if you have Game Pass, then you can just download it. And so I loaded it up, massive download, 138 gigs. So watch out for that. But I downloaded it and started playing, and it is a pretty freaking awesome game. Um, they drop you right in as the game starts to using about um, like 4 or 5 different vehicles, different types of racing. Uh, the feel of it is just fantastic. Driving around to all the missions is really cool. The graphics are great, even on an old card. Like they really have like maxed out what like the old tech can do, I guess, or whatever new tech they have. The game just looks great. Um, it's also really, you can get really advanced into a lot of the tuning and the parts that you can replace. It's all that stuff. Like I've bought a few parts and I just like look at the meters, and if they're green, then I buy them, and if they're red, then I don't buy them, because I don't know what half of any of that stuff means. But if you
That's
were
where Gran Turismo lost me. When Gran Turismo was like, you can adjust your suspension by this much and that, and I'm like, nope, I'm out. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's cool that it's like you're having a good time with this particular one. Have you played the main Forza motorsports at all?
no, I missed all that.
Yeah, see, and that one's closer. That one's more traditionally closer to the Gran Turismo, while this is like the Horizon, which more people seem to like as they've gone on. That's been the this is the arcade game essentially. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess it's pretty arcadey or whatever, but it does feel fantastic to race. I kind of forgot how good it feels to like just pass somebody and then to finally get, to fight for that top spot. One of the races that I had going, they start you back at the back because you don't have a name for yourself or whatever. So you're in like 8th place or 10th place out of 12th. Everybody passes you immediately, and you just have to like, zoom, zoom, and follow, like just fight your way up. And those last 2 cars, those 2 guys at the front are the hardest to pass because they're the best drivers. But when you do finally get like snake your way past them just from superior driving skill, you're just like, hell yeah. I haven't played any of the multiplayer yet. I'm sure I get my ass totally handed to me, but I might step into that a little bit if I feel like, feeling sad for myself. But anyway, otherwise, I talked about it a little bit on Game of the Year. I'm gonna play it some more. I definitely have an itch to play it. And I don't know how much more I'm gonna play it because I would have to move on to bigger and better games, newer and veinier games. But
All
I'm
right, I
definitely
got two
enjoying it
questions for you
for right
then.
now.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
so one, uh, is there? I doubt it, but do the cars have any damage modeling at all? Do you at least see scuffs of paint or anything? Or
A little bit. If you do like wreck the shit out of it, like the glass will crack. Uh,
okay,
um, and then at the end of one of my races where I won, I did notice that the car that I was driving, which I think is the car that's pictured here, for all the audio listeners, I have this red Mercedes. I don't remember the exact model of it, but it's this red Mercedes. I think it's orange whenever I was playing it, but it did have a bunch of denting on the door. It definitely looked
when
like
you buried that dude into the wall.
it had a blood stain on the side. No, no, it unfortunately it did not. But I mean, like it's definitely superficial damage. They definitely want you to feel like you could definitely walk away from whatever accident you've just been in. But I don't blame them. They have a lot of legal shit that they have to deal with. I'm just glad that they have some damage at all in the game.
Yeah, that's good to hear that there's at least some damage. And then the other thing is, is there any rubber banding that you've noticed? Because that's always the problem with old arcade games is you'd be cruising along in the front and all of a sudden out of nowhere some jagoff just comes catches right up on you.
I'll say no as far as like being like winning, but there was a point in that very first race where I missed a checkpoint, and they're like and they kicked me back to behind that checkpoint, and I had to go through it. And by then I was like in 12th place, and way behind, and I was able to get up to like 6th place by the end of the race, which there wasn't that much race left. So, I was able to get up to like 6th place. So I would say there's probably some rubber banding in those terms just to kind of get me to where I was respectable. But once I did get into, and the second time I raced it, it was pretty cool because I was getting more familiar with the track, and I snuck into 2nd place, and then I fucked up at the end with like 100 yards to go on the final turn, and I fucked up, and the guy in 3rd place did not fuck up as bad, and he passed me, and I was like, shit. And I've ended up finishing 3rd when I really should have finished 2nd. But then finally I managed to in the next race I managed to get 1st place. But yeah, I would say once I did get a good firm grip on that 1st place lead, they did not screw me over or anything like that.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. That's good that it seems to be balanced and fair in that sense.
Yeah, it's a cool game. I mean, it's a no-brainer for Game Pass. If you've got Game Pass, just fucking download it because it's cool. It's definitely really cool.
I have it downloaded. I just haven't got around to touching it because it's like there's too many other things happening in life right now. But I downloaded it all like I think it was last month. I did it right at the end of the month before my data cap. I'm like, oh, I have extra data I got to burn beforehand. So let me go ahead and just I ended up downloading a bunch of games that way. I'm like, yeah, now I have it on my hard drive for when I do need it,
I
and I
mean,
don't have to worry
like,
about burning my cap.
it is really cool because you could be playing whatever hardcore shooter or whatever, and then as an like a nightcap, palate cleanser type game, there's not much better than just fucking racing because it's just smooth and pure experience. Really cool.
All right, well that's great. Anything else you've been playing?
Yeah, I finally got a hold because it finally came to Epic Games. Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PC. So I have quite a bit of a history with Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy VII, when it came out, was the first Final Fantasy that I played, but I didn't play it when it came out. Didn't play it until probably like 2000, I don't know, 2001, probably about 2001, 2002, somewhere in there.
So a bit later, okay.
Yeah, so because like you got to remember, like as a kid in 1997, I was like, I don't know, I was probably like 8 or 9 years old, and I couldn't afford that. I mean, PlayStation was new, and my parents were like, no, you can play the old shit, little kid. Keep playing your Super Nintendo or your Sega. That's fine. So that stuff was really new back then. So I didn't get a chance to, like, the PlayStation didn't get cheap enough and widespread enough, and the games didn't get cheap enough until the early 2000s, which is when I played the original. And I really freaking loved that game when I did finally get to play it. It was amazing. It wasn't the first Final Fantasy I beat. Final Fantasy IX was the first Final Fantasy that I actually beat, but the first one that I played was 7. So this game, this remake, I know it's old hat now because it came out in the middle of last year, but it was I started playing this game, and it pretty much immediately hit me right in the feels, and just kind of playing through it and seeing in Midgar and the power plant, the Mako reactor, kind of rendered in this high definition type thing, and the music, of course, swelling, uh, and Barrett and the Biggs and Wedge running around. It just like it was just so freaking cool. Um, I just I just couldn't believe it, man. But the actual gameplay, kind of playing through it, because you've played this all the way through, right?
Yep, I played it all the way through. I vowed never to dare platinum it, or like I played it on the PlayStation 4. Uh, it was I played it because I had to. I absolutely love Final Fantasy VII. It actually when the winter, the holiday season when it came out, I had gotten my Christmas money early. My folks were and like family, they let me. They I was allowed to get to that stuff early, and then I went to the PX, which is the military store, and the PlayStations were hard to find. There were none there. I went to the layaway counter, and then the lady's like, yeah, this guy like it's on hold here. He's not going to pick it up in time. So here you can go ahead and buy it. So I had just enough money. I literally had just enough money to buy the PlayStation one and Final Fantasy VII. I didn't have a memory card.
Oh no.
I
Oh
had no
no.
money to buy a memory card. And my parents were always against me playing games. They taught me early that if I want something, I have to buy it with my own money. So that's what I was, so they really couldn't complain too much when I ended up buying, video games with my money, because that was kind of their thing. They limited my how much I can play and whatnot, but yeah, it's just like I was buying this with my own money. I'm like, okay, well, I had no memory card. So uh, I had to wait like a whole month before I can get a memory card. Uh,
Dude, that's brutal.
yeah, it was super funny though. Actually, what happened was a neighbor, their daughter worked at Babbage's, which was later bought out by EB Games or GameStop eventually in the end or something like that.
Yeah.
So she went to a manager conference or something like that, and she won a PlayStation, and she just gave it to her parents, who were at the time in like you're talking about mid late 40s. Uh,
Yeah. They
and
have no use
so
for that.
she gave it to him. She's like, "Here you go." But she gave it to him because uh, her mom liked racing,
Oh,
just racing in general. So she gave her Gran Turismo 2. Uh,
good game.
so yeah, I would play. It would be me as a sixth grader, seventh grader, something like that. We'd be playing with my 40-something-year-old neighbor, Gran Turismo 2. And we played that all the time. But luckily she had the spare memory card, so she's like, "Here you go, you can borrow this till you get your own." So I'm like, "Sweet."
That's pretty
So
cool.
that's my so I absolutely love Final Fantasy VII. It was the first Final Fantasy game that I actually really got into. Not my first RPG JRPG, but it's luckily that game came at the right moment, right time for me, and so despite I did not look forward to the remake at all. I mean, yeah, it was going to look pretty, but they did not need to expand it. Take all this time, and in the end, I walked away from the whole thing saying it was good. I'm glad I played it. They made it like 40% too long, and that was the base version, not the one you're playing with all the extra DLC in it. But just the base game, I thought it was 40% too long for this remake because they just pad out a lot of things. I think so. When you get further in, or when you beat it, let me know and we can have a spoiler talk about it.
Yeah, I'll definitely be talking about it again probably next time because I'm about 25 hours in right now, and I've heard it's anywhere between 33 and 43 or so hours, depending on how much extra you do. I have been doing some extra stuff, so probably a little bit longer for me. But yeah, like um, this game, from pretty early on, you can tell it's padded. It's if I was going to boil it down to kind of one sentence, I would say it's not enough butter spread out over too much bread. Um, but the the thing about it is that the bread is very good. The bread, the meat of the game, the like what you're doing and kind of running around and stuff is it is good. Like the battle system is pretty awesome. I mean, it feels like Final Fantasy VII, like that turn based. In a way, it feels like that translated over to real time action RPG combat. Um, they I feel like they have not really given enough though. Like in the original Final Fantasy VII, I remember getting a lot of different weapons and getting a lot of different bangles and materia and stuff, and a lot of it being like, okay, I'm going to use this for a while and then throw it away. Um, in this game, I'm 25 hours in and I've got, I think, 5 weapons, um, for each character. And I'm pretty sure I would have had more than that in the old game, but by this point in the old game, but maybe I'm just not remembering it properly. I don't know, but it's like it is good. Like it is kind of just going through. It is a nice, well put together, well crafted game. It's a bit of a hallway RPG, um, more than I would have wanted. Personally, I kind of think this game should be brought down and should be completable in 20 hours with, doing extra, getting it done in 30, and doing like completionist run, getting it done in like 40 or 50. I think they should have put more into, I don't know, like making it a tighter experience. Cause even at, the point I'm at in the game, I am kind of like, all right, let's move it along here. I don't need, this extra side thing or this extra weird thing. So in a way, like I like to play it in a sort of relaxed manner and just kind of thinking about, I like playing it as a game, like a nostalgia kind of seeing these characters again type of game. I just get a good feeling, like watching Cloud and Tifa and Barrett and Aerith interact. Um,
I think it was the music for me. The music is usually what it, like kicked in a lot of the memories.
oh yeah,
Hearing like their new versions of a lot of the old classics um, are very well put together, and I think they're suitable for what it is.
yeah,
Like I said, I completely I beat it all. I did most of the side stuff, or I did all the side stuff with the exception of the combat arena thing later on.
oh yeah.
Um, and so there's a special spot where you can go ahead and do just these combat challenges. I'm like, nope, I don't have any love. I don't have enough love for that. And uh, there's literally the game. I'm afraid that it's going to take forever just because it's being held. I can't remember who's the director of it right now. The same dude who does Kingdom Hearts,
Yeah.
who's butchered that one because Kingdom Hearts should be finished by now, but they keep on milking it and adding, uh, you know, extra versions, apostrophes, and all like decimal points and all this bullshit. And like, no, dude, just fucking end it. So this is going to be. This is you might as well have Peter Jackson doing it. I guess is it's just going to be way too damn long. Uh, it's taking something small and just making it way too epic.
Expanding it
And
out beyond what it should
they
be.
want, yeah, I mean, I guess they want to get their money's worth for they're building all these assets and they're doing all these character models, so they might as well get try to get milk it for what it's worth. But I don't think it's worth this. Um, I still it's a good game. It is worth your time to play. I think it's worth experiencing. I just don't think it deserves to be this long, and I am much more interested in the rest of the game. Because if you had told me disc one, um, or a larger portion was just this first bit, but no, it's just the Midgar. It's literally the tutorial area.
Yeah.
I, so
yeah, like I think that expanding a whole game out from Midgar is a good idea. But just you just say that like, okay, but we're gonna take Final Fantasy and we're gonna give it to you, and I think 3 games is fine, but we're gonna make Midgar kind of its own thing, and it's gonna be about 20-25 hours, whatever. Um, I think that there's enough in Midgar to do conceptually that you could create this game and make it really, really great. Um, I think that they had a really good chance with Jessie, who's a new character, right?
Nope,
She was
nope,
in the
nope, no,
original.
nope.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, totally. Jesse Biggs Wedge, all the original
I
Avalanche.
definitely remember
Now
Biggs and Wedge,
all
but I totally
her,
forgot
all
about
they
Jessie.
filled in her character and all those characters. They filled in them in way more.
Yeah.
So once again, all right, I'm gonna end up cutting this kind of short because we're gonna go way too long on this, and you haven't finished it yet. I want you to finish this,
Well, let
and then we
me.
can really go deep dive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
guess.
finish. Like I'm gonna have you wrap this up right now and tie it on because we will just go on forever.
Well, I do want to say, because I am going to have a lot to say about the last part of the game and intermission, because I'm going to try to play that as well. But I do feel like there's a missed opportunity with Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge. They could have in this game, and I think should have made them their own, playable, battle ready characters. I think that that is a completely missed opportunity, especially with how little that you have kind of going on with like Barrett and Tifa and Aerith, almost never in the same room at the same time through the first 25 hours. So I'll just leave it there, and we'll talk about it some more next time when I've gone a little bit further. But yeah,
Yeah.
so Final Fantasy VII Remake, I had a chance to take a good taste of that, but that and Forza are all that I've had a chance to play.
Okay, one quick thing, just while we're still on Final Fantasy is, have you been suffering any of the issues that a lot of people have been talking about?
So what have people been talking about? Because I kind of heard,
Uh,
but but I haven't really heard for sure.
a lot of just performance issues with like stuttering, frame rate, just not being able to control the a lot of that stuff. There's been like juddering, and people are pissed because there's not a lot of options or features on the PC version, but that most PC games would have. But it's mostly just bad optimization is essentially the nutshell. The TLDR. So I didn't, people are talking about just juddering and frame rate instabilities. You notice anything like that?
Yes. Early on, it was all right. That very first mission was pretty okay. It was a little bit juddery, but once I got out and into like the slums section, I did notice that it was stuttering and jittering. I thought it was just my system. I thought my system was just old and shitty. And so because I'm on a 970 graphics card, so I thought, well, it's just me. But it was kind of stuttering and jittering a little bit. It wasn't unplayable by any means. It was just irritating. So I did try to lower, the graphical settings down. Um, I didn't want to budge from that 60 frames per second. I did eventually, but then I shifted it back because it didn't help. And then I did lower it down from 1080p to like just below that, like uh, 850 or whatever p, and that really didn't seem to help either. Some of the faces were a little bit blurry as well. I think that's been cleared up too. But ever since probably like 3 or 4 days after whenever they did whatever patch that they did, that seems to have cleared up because I don't notice any jittering now, and I think the faces look a little bit better as well. So they've cleaned it up. It wasn't enough to really piss me off, but if I did have a brand new graphics card and it was performing like that, I would be pretty pissed. So yeah, they managed to fix it, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay. Yeah, I just heard people talking about it. I played it on the PS4 Pro, so
Yeah.
that's it ran okay for me.
Yeah.
All right. For me, on the other hand, I haven't really been playing much. I got around to finishing Guardians. Uh, I really enjoyed it. The story was caught me by surprise. I think I mentioned that last time. It was, and I did mention a little bit of the Game of the Year discussion, but uh, it's a really good story. If you like the movies, or if you know anything about the comics, and then of course it falls right in line. But yeah, for someone who doesn't know much about Guardians and generally likes the movies, I really like the first one. The second one's okay. Uh,
Yeah, me too.
and yeah, that's essentially this is very, very well done. It's a different telling of their the group essentially bonding and getting together. So it's a different story. Everyone has a slightly different Peter Quill has a different past from the movie. So the mom situation and his dad, like they're completely different. Well, not completely different, but things wind up differently. How he meets the Ravengers and stuff like that, Yandu, all that stuff is different. They do a really good job about flushing out the characters. A lot of it's optional though. That's the neat part. It's there if you want it, but if you don't and you just want to mainline the game, you can, but you just won't get as much out of it. Because you find items, and those items will wind up in the crew quarters, and then whenever you're back in the ship, you can explore the crew quarters, pick up said item, and that'll engage in extra lines of dialogue. Or during certain moments, you can optionally, they'll have a speech bubble above their heads, and you can talk to each crew member and just engage in all these conversations. I had a really good time with all that. It reminded me of almost like an adventure game or something, like uh, coming from Square. The closest thing right off the bat comes to like something like Life is Strange, which is not really a
Yeah.
good analogy, but Life is Strange is a very dialogue heavy it's like thing, and it's very good story. Not sure if any of the same team or nothing like that, but just this game really did have a lot of that.
Yeah, it's
Combat was okay, but I mean, that was about all I gotta say about combat. It's just okay,
it's
but the
it's really
story was
weird
just
that
totally worth it.
that SquareSoft, or Square Enix rather, made a game like this. I guess it's cool because Disney's passing around, the Marvel license, and it seems like
Well, it's
they.
Eidos Montreal, so I mean they're the ones who
But
really
but Square's a publisher, right?
yeah, publisher, but Eidos is they're the guys who do Deus Ex. Um
Oh yeah,
and so yeah, at
yeah,
least they have the chops for making good stuff. So it's it's but when you see Square plastered across there, you're like, yeah, you most definitely like, wait, really? It does catch you off guard.
yeah. That is strange. I did hear that kind of combat seemed. Maybe it was on a podcast. I think it was Alex on Nextlander. I think he was saying that combat in the game seems overly simplified until later, and then you do have to start kind of making choices. But like you were playing it in sort of a Mass Effect-y style, and he might not have been.
Yeah, so what I did was the only thing that was different is when you use your abilities to you can't control your other party members. You only control Peter Quill, and so everyone else you'll unlock their special moves, and that's all you can do is have them command them to attack with their special abilities. Um, so when you pull up the menu system for their special abilities, it'll slow down time. It'll still move, but it'll move slower.
Yeah,
Now, in the accessibility option, you can slow it down to a complete stop, or you can have it run at. You can even change it so there is no pause at all, so the game still runs completely smooth, and that makes it more challenging. I went with the Mass Effect style or the BioWare style of like Knights of the Old Republic or something, where when you pulled up that wheel, the whole game stopped, it paused it, so it became more of a tactical thing, which undoubtedly made it way easier. But other than that, that's the only thing I touched with the accessibility options as far as that goes. Um, I kind of wish you had more ability to tell them to attack or defend or like back up, but they just automatically do their own thing. And yeah, I don't know, the combat. The only real difficult part is they don't really tell you this so much, but you kind of figure it out by colors. Later on, you get like enemies with certain shields, and depending on their color shield, uh, Peter's weapons will have elemental properties as you progress, and then you just have to match elemental to the color of the shield. So white shield, well, I have an ice, or it's a bluish shield, so so that's going to be lightning. Um, so that's kind of if you don't do that, the those encounters are a lot more difficult just because you're trying to whittle them down a lot harder. But what I do is, you get an enemy, and then I just dogpile all your guys. All right, I'll have Drax do a stunning move. Gamora, I'll have her do a hard hit. I'll do more stun damage, so then all of a sudden it'll max out their stun meter. They'll stagger the enemy. Rocket will do an AoE attack, while Groot, right off the bat, first thing I would have done was pin everyone down. So that person standing still, getting dogpiled, gets stunned, gets exploded. Then it's just you can make quick work of them if you know how to combine your attacks real quick. So I didn't really find it that challenging as a concept.
Hmm.
I mean, once again, it's all about the dialogue. It's all about the choices. Later on in the game, the ending part of the game, depending on some of your choices and what you've if succeeded or not succeeded in, you can make the ending part of the game a little more simple. You'll have some, enemy groups, and then like, oh, because of a decision you made earlier, you'll have backup or you won't, and so that's really about it. But the dialogue choices are a lot of flavorful text. It's a lot of it doesn't really have any real solid meaning at the end, I think. Unlike a Mass Effect where it gave you that illusion, Renegade or Paragon. This isn't really that. But they do have a lot of good banter. I even started doing a new game plus a little bit to finish out. Like I got a platinum on this, so I wanted to do. There's a few things I had to do, so I went ahead with new game plus and playing through a little bit of my second time around. I was getting dialogue that I didn't get the first time. The only
Hmm.
problem with the dialogue is, unlike a game like God of War, where they do it right, where they're in the middle of talking, and they're like, and then all of a sudden you do something to interrupt that talking. That's it. In this game, it's like they just end it, and so they're in the middle of talking about a story or something like that, or making a joke, and it just stops because you either entered the next area or had a combat encounter.
That's kind of awkward.
God of War did it right, where you get off the boat, and the next time you get in the boat, they get back to the story. They're like, where was I? Or, and then they continue that thing again. I'm like, oh, that's cool because I didn't mean to interrupt this dialogue. So there's a lot of times where I just stand there. I'm like, I'm about to go through this narrow corridor, which obviously is going to load into the next transition scene. So I'm just going to wait here and let them finish their talking.
Hmm.
But then again, at the same time, I'm just walking forward and I accidentally clip into the next one. And so the next scene, and I missed what they're saying. I'm like, oh, well. But they have a lot of good dialogue, a lot of good jokes. Only in combat does it get boring sometimes because they'll yell the same things, often. But honestly, solid game, really worth play. I enjoyed my time with it.
That's cool, man.
So,
That's really great.
all right. So other than that, let's see. Because of it being the end of the year, not a whole lot for news going on. So we're gonna skip the news segment this time around, and we're gonna go ahead and talk a little bit about the games that of next year that we're looking forward to playing. So I guess I'm gonna let you go ahead and kick us off with what some of the stuff you're interested in playing for 2022.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I don't know. In no particular order, I've got a couple different things that I am pretty interested in. Um, I guess high on the list and early in the year is Elden Ring. I mean, everybody's really hyped about that. A lot of influencers have had a chance to play it as well, and I mean, for whatever their word is worth, um, a lot of them are saying that it is really amazing. That it's more than just open world Dark Souls. It's that they are doing even kind of more better stuff with it. Um,
Yeah, that beta went really well, actually, from everything I've seen, and a lot of people were talking about it. The high praise, Digital Foundry, they really liked it as well.
Yeah, so that just seems really interesting to me. I've played a little bit of the Dark Souls. I've played a little bit of Sekiro, kind of still like working through that. But I kind of wanted to jump on the bandwagon at this point and take the chance to really see what this game's like. So that's one that I'm pretty excited about. Do you want me to go on with a few more or?
Yeah, let's just knock yours out, and then mine's nothing impressive either.
Okay,
Um, but yeah, because you got that party you got to get going to, and I'm gonna have to put my kids to bed relatively soon. So
okay.
sorry for this one being a little bit more hurried.
Uh,
But I mean, we'll talk about some of these like the next one on your list. I'm looking forward to this one as well.
yeah. So I'm not. I don't know if we're. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the wrong list. Um, yeah. So let me find that again. Okay, yeah. So King of Fighters 15. Looking forward to that. A lot of people are just kind of like, well, this is gonna be whatever. But I want to support the fighting game community. And I'm pretty sure I'll have some fun with it. Also, sticking in with that fighting game section is a new game from Arc System Works, same people that did Guilty Gear Strive and Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. They have a new game that's coming out called DNF Duel. I don't know anything about it other than it's from Arc System. They make probably the best fighting games right now. Or at least regularly making the most best fighting games. It looks like it's going to be another Guilty Gear Strive, just with different characters. So it'll be cool. I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, I don't know much about that one, but King of Fighters most definitely excited about just because it has such a long history and it's been a long time since I've dabbled in a King of Fighters game. But no, it's Arc Systems does solid stuff all around. So yeah, you pretty much can't go wrong. They've been knocking it out of the park with all their games lately.
Yeah. Other couple games. Forspoken is going to be a new game from Square Enix.
Final Fantasy, the history of Final Fantasy VII originally came out by Squaresoft, and when they merged with Enix, it became Square Enix. So you have the old Final Fantasy in your brain, and that's why you keep on saying Squaresoft.
Well, Squaresoft just was such a much better name than Square Enix, but that's just my opinion. Forspoken. I saw a trailer for it. It looks okay. I don't know. I'm kind of excited about it. Whatever. It might suck. That is definitely a possibility. It might not be very good. Starfield from Bethesda. Another game that, I'm not really that big on Bethesda games, but I definitely want to see what this is like. See if they've learned any of their lessons or learned any lessons from some of their most recent games. I doubt they have, but we'll see what it's like and then proceed on from there. Another kind of a big game that's coming out this coming year probably is Bayonetta 3. I just recently finished Bayonetta 1.
It's not coming out. That's my bet. My bet is it's not coming out next
You
year.
don't think it's coming out?
We'll talk about that next. So we'll talk about that next episode. But I don't think it's coming out.
Okay.
Actually, give me one moment. I have to answer this.
Okay.
Sorry, mate.
We'll be back in just a second.
All right, and we're back. All right, sorry guys for that short break. Kids don't wait for no one, and they don't give a damn about your schedule.
I don't give a shit about your fucking stupid video game podcast.
It's like I can't even use the controller yet. So I just know that when it lights up in your hands, I need it.
I need it. Yeah.
So all right. Let's see. We left off, and you just mentioned. Oh, that's right, Bayonetta. So Bayonetta totally not coming out next year. That's my guess.
I am not sure about that. But we will discuss it when I am sure later on.
Yeah. All right.
So I had a few more just run through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Starfield, Bayonetta 3 seems interesting. Indies. There's a couple of indies games that I am trying to pay attention to because they don't often get a lot of play. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge. Maybe that'll be kind of cool looking. Looks like the old Super Nintendo style games.
That was the one with the with that theme song that was like the same lyrics but not the same melody, if I remember correctly.
It hasn't come out yet.
No, watch there's a trailer for Ninja. I think it was this Ninja Turtles game. Maybe it was one that already came out. But I just remember they announced the new Ninja Turtles game. Looked like the old classic Turtles in Time or something like that. And so solid game footage. But the guy who did the theme song, it was supposed to be like someone actually of note, and it was like, we gave you the lyrics, but we'd never actually let you listen to the original theme song. And go. It's pretty awesome in a terrible kind of way, but also at the same time, it's still pretty good. Look it up. I want to say it's this one.
I will look it up after the podcast. I will look it up. Three more. One called Broken Roads. Looks like kind of one of those old kind of PC style RPGs where you just walk around and talk to people and stuff like that. Has a cool looking aesthetic. Looks interesting. I'll probably dabble into that. Little Devil Inside. I think it's only going to come out on PlayStation. Hopefully it'll come out on PC, but if I can get a PlayStation, and I will probably play Little Devil Inside because it looks pretty cool. It's got a kind of a weird looking, interesting aesthetic. They had it on the last State of Play. They showed some gameplay of it and looks good. Um, and then finally for me, in
Oh
the
wait, sorry. Little Devil Inside. That was the weird one that looks like isometric, looked like almost watching a board game. Had a had a
yeah,
interesting like almost cartoony CG look to it. Yeah,
but
that
also
one
the
was really interesting.
but also like the tilt shift camera was kind of in there too, where it's
Yeah,
unfocused and stuff.
it seemed like it was going to go like all over the place. They had a couple different scenes that the game was in, and it's just like you're in the middle of the like on a train, then you're in the middle of nowhere, like trees, and then you're on a boat or something like that. Yeah, that one looked really interesting. I'm curious about that one.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a a good talking point, for sure, at least. And then finally, a game called Stray. It's coming out. You play as a stray cat, and it's kind of CG realistic looking. It's not like a cartoonish type game. I've just kind of heard that it seems cool. I haven't really seen much gameplay or anything, but looks like an interesting idea. So I'm excited to play
Yeah, but
that.
you're a sucker for cats, so
I'm a sucker for cats. I love the cats. And looks like it looks like a good idea and something fun to experience at least. And then there's a bunch of games that you're interested in that I'm also interested in. At which point I will interject and express my concern. But that's it for me, Joe. What are you looking forward to this coming year?
all right. Yeah, I guess no particular order on this one as well, but I think one of which is going to be I'm really excited for is Horizon Forbidden West. Um, so I played the crap out of the original Horizon. That came out around the same time the Zelda or the Switch came out, and Breath of the Wild was out shortly after Horizon. Uh, Everyone was really excited about Horizon, but then when Breath of the Wild, everyone's like, "Nope, we're going with Breath of the Wild," because that had most definitely the nostalgic pull. Out of the two games, I think Breath of the Wild is the worst game. Uh, no, it's more sandboxy. So if you have more time to play around and you want to do like a lot of physics stuff, that's really cool. But as far as an actual story goes, um, I think Horizon had it had a story, and that's compared to Breath of the Wild, which had no story. No, it had a really good story. Horizon story. It was a good driving point. The reveal of how things are and stuff like that, and why things are the way they are. It was super awesome. So I am stoked about this next one. Uh, I put a lot of time into the first game, so I'll probably put a lot of time in the second one. Though I actually didn't get around to playing the DLC, um, just because I just haven't been able to get back to it. And it's one of those things that my character's at a high enough level, and it's like I forgot how all the controls work because it had been so long.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Don't you
it's what
love
I
that?
tried getting back into it. I'm like, oh, this is rough. I'm gonna have to. I should start a new game, get myself just reacquainted with it, and then go back into my original save and jump in the DLC portion. And I'll probably end up doing that before this game comes out, just to get me primed. Um, the question is whether or not it's granted target is going to be PS5. I doubt it's going to be PS4, but with any luck, it'll be PC because
W-
they did
uh,
bring out the Horizon to the PC port. So,
I think I just looked it up, and I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure Forbidden West is going to be for the PS4
oh,
as
okay.
well.
Uh, so I'm curious what kind of sacrifices I'll have to make for that because granted,
Surely.
at the rate they're going, PlayStation took a hard stance saying we believe in generations, and then they quickly backpedaled when supply chains couldn't pan out,
I mean,
which it's fine
yeah,
for me.
yeah. Like, yeah, I won't talk about that very much, but like, I think Jeff Gershman from Giant Bomb, he said that like he's like they were talking about how the generation, when will the new generation really be here, and he was like, when games are released for the PS5 and they cannot run on the PS4, when they can only run on the new hardware. And I'm kind of like I kind of agree with that. It doesn't really feel like the new generation is here, even though it sort of is here. Um, but as I mean, yeah, it kind of needs to extend because of the hardware issues that we're having. They're the supply constraint issues. But I'm also excited for Horizon Forbidden West. I didn't play the first one. I kind of want to go back and play it, but I don't want to spend the money on it, and I know I won't spend that much time on it. So I might just jump in on Forbidden West if I can get a PS5, um, and enjoy it right there with you.
Yeah, if depending on when you pick up the PS5, if you're lucky enough to get it sooner than later, I mean, you can always do the backwards compatibility thing with the PS4, and they do. I think they did make some upgrades to it to be able to play on the PS5.
Mhm.
So enhancements, and that'd probably be a solid way to play it as well. But yeah, so that's the first one that I'm really interested in. I guess another one coming out that's I'm pretty stoked about is Sifu.
Mm.
So Sifu was made by the I forget the name of the team now, but they're the same guys who did Absolver. And I tried Absolver, but I was really bad at it. Very bad at the that. It's a very technical, like, for those who are really good at fighting games, and like they had a really good sword combat system. But Sifu is going to be more of the kung fu martial arts style, and the catch or the gimmick to this one is really neat. Or I think it's fun. Is I think you start out as a 20-year-old, and every time you die, it adds a year. Well, it adds a year to your life. So then you die once, and then you're 21. But then what happens is I think it does something like when you die again, it adds the amount of times you've died to your current age. So then when you
Whoa.
die a second time, it's two. You died two times already, and you're 21. So next time you're 23, and then after that you'll be 26. So you quickly get older, but then here you are, uh, walk into a club. It's more or less the boil down is I think it's just a revenge story, which
Yeah.
I'm fine with. Uh, and you go into a club and you just mess people up. And it's a very unforgiving game. I've seen some people do some early plays of it, and I really want to try it. I'm a big fan of kung fu and martial arts films. I'm also a big fan of the old Hong Kong, like John Woo style stuff. So that's
Yeah.
why one of my favorite games of the last generation was Sleeping Dogs. I love Sleeping
Mm.
Dogs way well. Actually, maybe two generations ago now. I was it PS3. Shoot.
Yeah, I think it
Um,
was.
yeah. So I actually, but still, that's one of my favorite GTA like games. Um,
Yeah.
and
Like Sifu, and Sifu is the Cantonese word for master. They throw that around a lot in Hong Kong Cantonese, action films. So that caught my eye, just saying like, oh, Sifu. They're not like using like they're not that they're not using Mandarin. They're throwing it to like super old school Cantonese. So that's cool.
Yeah. Well, Cantonese was always used in Hong Kong for the longest time. Unfortunately, it's like a dying language right now. Um,
Yeah,
so I give it a couple generations, and it'll probably be all but gone. Um,
yeah, maybe.
yeah. So all right. Next one is on my list is Stalker 2. Um, so Stalker, original Stalker was took place in Chernobyl, like the remnants of in a mutated kind of wasteland, and it was kind of the predecessor to the Metro style games. So it's very if you like the Metro games or if you know anything about it, it's similar, but it was more soccer was like a little more open world, and it's a lot of fun. I hadn't played it since it like first came out, and I just remember really enjoying it. I don't think I actually played any of the DLC that came out or the expansion. It was more than just a DLC. Uh, so I like the Metro series, and so this is more in the same ballpark. So I'm totally going to check this out when I get a chance to.
Cool, man.
And so yeah, next one up is going to be the reboot of Saints Row.
Oh yeah.
Uh, all right, so I'm a little bit. How do I say this? I actually didn't really like the trailer too much of this, but I really like Saints Row. More specifically, Saints Row the Third. So I've played Saints Row 1, 2, and 3 to completion. Saints Row 2 and 3 I've played with friends, and that's what made that game so much fun is being able to do a GTA. like game and have it multiplayer. I mean, that's what GTA should have done a long time ago, and to actually do the storyline that way.
Oh yeah.
Saints Row the Third was the right time, the right place. They knew what they were. They amped it up. They cranked it to 11 and made it silly and quirky, and it was funny as hell, and it was a good time all around. So the Saints Row 4 kind of didn't really catch me that well. It had some fun moments, but it didn't hit that same strike those same notes. So I'm hoping that I have hope for the reboot. Uh, so long as it's I think it'll be passable. You know, because of the fact that I'm going to be playing it with somebody. I'll find somebody to play it with. You know,
Oh, okay.
um,
I mean, I'll play it with you. I heard that they were maybe going a little bit different direction with it, and it's not going to be quite as silly. Or
did
is
you not
that?
see the trailer?
I
That
haven't seen
trailer
the.
was pretty damn silly, man.
I haven't seen the trailer. I haven't seen anything about it.
He driving backwards on the rooftops, firing rocket launchers at each other. Yeah, it's I think it's a different kind of silly,
Okay.
but it'll still be pretty silly. And the whole concept of this one is they're like rebooting the gang. I think is supposed to be the concept. So they're going to you're starting from the ground up again, trying to do reboot the Saints. Because that's what happened was in the original Saints Row was a straight GTA clone, it was supposed to be a Thug Life ripoff kind of deal, and it was okay. Saints Row 2 got more silly, and they did some fun stuff. They had like the poop truck. You had mission to like vandalize some businesses with a poop truck. You know,
Okay.
and they were starting to differentiate themselves. It had a decent story, and I think that was a surprisingly decent story for a game back then. Thinking just as a GTA clone, and then 3 went nope, we're just going to be silly as that get out, and we're going to have a reality game or a game show where you just murder a bunch of Genki's super happy fun time or something like that, where your goal is to make it from one end to the obstacle course to the other while murdering everyone in the way, and they're all in mascot costumes. Uh,
Yeah,
Stuff like
they
that.
kind of figured out their niche as they went along. They were like, we're going to be a knockoff. And then they're like, oh, no, there's actually some fun stuff that we could do a little bit adjacent.
Yeah, and so that's why if I don't think they'll hit one, they might not hit that level. I wouldn't expect them to, but also too, like I'm also a different person than I was at back then. So it's been a long time since that game first released.
Yeah.
So my sensibilities and my humor might not be, I might not be as amused as I would have been if, back then, but I still think it's going to be a fun game. I have hopes that it'll just be a good time. So yeah.
It's cool.
uh
Yeah.
all right. There's Ghostwire Tokyo. um I don't have too much to say about this one because I've actually kept myself really in the dark about it. I just remember when they one of the first couple trailers, it looked really good. It was like had a really good like cyberpunk aesthetic. I thought it before cyberpunk came out. This actually looked more cyberpunk than cyberpunk. I mean, it had it's just a game that I've been waiting for because I want to go into it as blind as I can because this is one of the few ones I've gotten. Uh, like I was like, this looks really good. Unless if I start hearing like it's garbage, I'm just most definitely just gonna wait for it and hopefully be excited. All right, next one up is gonna be God of War Ragnarok. So the God of War that they came out with, the most recent one, uh, I really liked it. That was a solid game. I was able to play it on the PlayStation 4, and I enjoyed my time with it. I'm a big story person. Um, so it had a really good story. It had, like I said, they did the things right where they're talking the side chats they have. If you accidentally interrupt the side chat, they'll come back to that chat later, and so you can actually finish out what they're reminiscing. Um, the bonding between Kratos and his son. Um, the meme of boy.
Yeah.
I yell that one to my child. You know, trying to get his attention, like boy, and he just ignores me. So he's like, but yeah, he's so no, God of War Ragnarok. I'm really the twist at the end of the God of War game, or the reveal. I should not really twist, but the reveal. I'm like, okay, that's exciting. So I'm curious where this is going to go, and I believe that team will do a phenomenal job.
Yeah,
I have no doubt.
I'm glad that they're deciding to end it. You know, after this, this one. Um, Not everything needs to be a trilogy. And I just assumed it would be like a trilogy or whatever, back whenever the first one came out. But I'm kind of glad that they're going to go ahead and end it and move on to other things. Um,
They'll end the Norse god. They kind of tease about the other deities as
well,
well.
God of War's
So
never going away. I mean, it's like Mario. It's never going away completely. But as far as I guess in terms of the people who are going to be working on it, they're because they were talking about on some podcast, they were like, it's if you think about it, you spend, you know, 3 or 4 years per game on 3 games, and that's like the bulk of your career as a game maker. So anyway, that's just kind of a weird thing that I was thinking about. But I'm planning to play the first God of War in January and maybe February a little bit, and then hopefully jump on this one whenever it comes out too.
yeah, no, that like I said, that game was another one I did. I completely did everything I could on the PlayStation version. So yeah, totally worth it, I think. And then the last game that I really have my eye on is going to be Redfall. Uh, Redfall is I forget when they debuted the trailer for that one, but that one's the shows it's 4 player. I don't know if it's PV. The trailer didn't really show much of it, but you're vampires hunting other vampires.
Hmm.
It's like I don't know if it's like PVE or it's like I think it's supposed to be in the Vampire the Masquerade universe, and it's supposed to just be um, a big multiplayer thing, is what I thought it was. But even if it's like a Back for Blood style or something like that, I'll be perfectly happy. It looked fun. You had the each character had their own like hero abilities. One person controlled like a machine. You have it debuted really well for a trailer. I usually don't get excited about trailers. Well, that looks good. So that's the one like I completely, I know nothing about it, but I'm actually going to keep my eye out for that one too. That um, between that and like Ghostwire Tokyo, those are the two things I've been waiting. But Ghostwire Tokyo, I've been waiting forever for.
Oh, really?
So uh, yeah, that one's been like I honestly don't think it's going to come out next year.
Wow.
uh, I'm actually curious about Redfall as well. I think Redfall might be not coming out next year.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll
so
see. I mean, we'll definitely be kind of wondering about that in one of our next episodes, I think.
yeah, for sure. That'll give us some more talking topics there. So all right. Yeah, that's really about it for me. And you're all tapped out. So I guess we're gonna go to our signal boost, and I'll start this one off. Just because we were talking earlier, and you made me realize it's like something I'd like to promote on the board game front is uh, sit down, shut up. They uh, if there's any board game that you're curious about, they do a lot of good jobs about going over the basic rules, the type of game. Uh, I've I haven't been watching them of lately, but they're someone I used to watch often. A couple, handful of years ago, overseas, like there's been the last decade, there's been like they call it the golden age of board games. So it's a big boom happened. A lot of people got really into board games. Will Wheaton had his own board game YouTube thing for a while.
Will Wheaton.
Lasted like had like 3 seasons. It's it really didn't. A lot of games got showcased, and so sit down, shut up. They did a really good job of explaining a lot of the games, and they did it in their own uh, style. It's not just a dry reading of the rules. They did little skits. They tried making it funny in their own way, and they made it pretty relatable. Like by the time you're done, you got a good gist of what the game was and whether or not you'd like it. And so, based off their reviews, I've bought games, and I've also I've not really been disappointed with what they've recommended and how they've based off their reviews. So yeah, totally give them a look. I'm not actually sure if they're still making stuff. I hope they are,
Yeah.
but I actually, like I said, last 3 years we hadn't bought a single board game. So we just like, well, those are expenses we don't necessarily need. We have a house now, we have a family. Like we don't have time for that. And plus with the pandemic, we're just playing all of our old stuff. So
Yeah.
that's why I kind of splurged this time. I'm like, okay, let's go in and get some new stuff. So yeah, sit
That,
down, shut up, give them a watch.
that's cool. Um, I'm gonna pull one from YouTube, sort of. So I don't know if you're much into true crime. I'm really not. Every once in a while, a story will pique my interest. And I was sitting on the shitter the other day, scrolling through
As you
Reddit,
do.
as you do, scrolling through Reddit, and someone had this thing like mysteries that they wish would be solved. And so I was kind of reading through some of that, and somebody was like, "Oh, the Hinterkaifeck murders." Um, I was like, "What's that?" And so I started to do some research on it. The Hinterkaifeck murders. There was a farm in Germany in 1922. The farm itself is called Hinterkaifeck, and a family called the Grubers lived there. There were 6 people, and they were all murdered, um, one by one, more or less, by an unknown assailant. And officially, they have never figured out who did it. And there's a lot of weird mystery, like mysterious things that happened around the case. And there's just lots of interesting stuff to do with it. So I kind of did some research on that and kind of fell down the rabbit hole there. So the Hinterkaifeck murders, if you're into true crime at all, which you probably have already heard of it, but if you haven't, or you're just passingly, you have a passing interest in that stuff, I recommend going and looking that stuff up. And what I'll link is the first thing I Googled on it was I just Googled Hinterkaifeck murders. And one of the first things that popped up was a guy on YouTube named Mr. Ballin. I'll put the link in here. And he like just talks about random scary stories or spooky or weird stuff, and kind of just lays it out in story format. And he's pretty good at it. So that was kind of where I first experienced it. But then I went and listened to a podcast and stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff about it. See if you can figure out who the murderer is. I think I know who it is. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's my signal boost.
All right. Well, since it's an unsolved thing, so you think you know who the murderer is. So go out
Well,
there, make a name for yourself.
well, I mean, it's kind of complicated, but it's essentially like we will never really know. But the the I'll just spoil this little part. The they
If you don't
reopened.
want to listen to, now's the time to cut off.
Rip the
Thanks for
headphones
joining
out of
us.
your ears. Thanks for joining us. Bye. But just real quick, it's not that much of a spoiler. Like in 2007, they reopened the case as a cold case, and every investigator that looked at it separately came to the same conclusion about who they believe the killer is. And they decided to not make it public because the killer's family is still around, and they don't want to, and there's no way they can prove it, and there's no like way they can do anything about it. So they would really just be visiting a lot of probably bad publicity onto this family that has nothing to do with it
Yeah, they'd get
anymore.
bullied for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So they were like, well, and they so very smart of them, but there's a lot of other stuff that points around, and if you do enough reading, you can figure out who this group of people thinks it is, and you can come to your own conclusion. Anyway, that's it.
All right. Well, this is the last one for the end of the year. We're gonna be closing out 2021. We've been going at it for now. This is episode eight and a
Officially,
half, if you include
officially.
our game of the year discussion.
Yeah.
So we've 4 months now. We'll be looking forward to another solid year, and I really do appreciate you guys sticking around, listening. Uh, you know, and I appreciate you, Nick, for taking your time out. And I know you got a party to be getting to, so Yeah, it's great. Thanks a lot, and we really appreciate it, guys. You take
I
care and have yourself a good one.
I also appreciate you, Joe, and I appreciate the listeners.
Ah,
And I hope that we can have another great year together. Happy New Year, y'all.
yeah. Take it easy.
Bye.